Welcome to Prog Will Find a Way. Our podcast all about progressive rock today, tomorrow, and definitely yesterday. But Prog does find a way all the time. And speaking of which, today we're going to talk about some new things coming out, and we're going to talk about some albums we talked about in the past that we now have some physical copies of.
Physical copies.
Yes.
They exist.
So, for those of you watching on YouTube, you can see all these props we have, but those listening on Spotify will have to just imagine, or Apple Music. So one of the things we talked about a number of months ago was the Peter Gabriel album I.O., which came out with a dark side and a bright side mix, which was the same album, just remixed by two different people with kind of a different take on the album. And I think John and I both discussed at the time that we thought that the mixes were not that dissimilar to create such a need for a dark side, bright side. A very interesting concept, but I don't think in reality they differed enough to have that distinction. However, I remember you at the time saying, I wish he just would tell us which one he likes.
Right.
Well, I got the physical copy.
Even after all that.
Even after all that. Well, because I like the music.
Of course.
But I got the physical copy, and it has a CD of the dark side, a CD of the bright side, and a Blu-ray Atmos mix of the inside mix.
There you
which
go.
I believe would probably go as the definitive mix.
Definitive.
John, you haven't heard this yet.
I have not, no.
I just got it. So,
was it just released?
No, but it was one of those, Amazon before Christmas.
Things behind my head. Let's see it in the frame.
One of those before Christmas things, whatever, the Amazon Prime Days or whatever. Yeah. So, nice. I got it. It was like $20 for the 3 CD thing. So
that's pretty good, because that's not domestic, is it?
I don't know.
I don't think so, but maybe it is. I don't know. Came with an Obi?
Yeah, it came with an Obi strip, which is kind of an interesting thought for cool. A American or any release. Yeah, I don't see where this was made, but
check this out.
But anyway, it's an interesting little package, and I think that you should borrow it or whatever just to see if you like the final mix, which I've listened to a couple times and I enjoyed it.
It's a booklet, nice booklet here too.
With different pieces of art for each song that were commissioned by different artists.
Oh wow.
And it's kind of funny. I haven't read through all of these liner notes, but most of it is all about the recording and all the people involved in each of these songs. But on the last page, he kind of does all his thank yous and things like that. But there's not really a big explanation of how the mixes came about or what the thing was. And if there is, I have not read that in here yet. Because it's a ton of thank yous. But he does have a little explanation at the beginning, but it's not very specific. Well, different views of different things and et cetera. As an artist, I'm paraphrasing, but it doesn't really say the inside mix is the definitive. But I think that if you're doing an Atmos mix of one of them or some of them,
you're probably going to pick at least the one you like that day.
Or it could, for all we know, it's a mix of both of them.
Right.
That's why I'm saying I didn't get that deep into every piece there.
So it is a U.S. domestic release. Yeah. It's made in the U.S. So. Yeah.
So that was one. That was one thing.
Yep.
And then a recent episode, we also discussed the Porcupine Tree, Fear of a Blank Planet, release.
And we did have a question within that description
whether I would buy it.
Whether I didn't say Jay specifically, but whether one of us would buy it, and I believe we're answering that question right now.
So I did buy it,
and he's showing it, and it looks like a very thick book.
It's a very thick book. There's a huge. I haven't even gotten through it yet. A huge essay history of the making of this album.
Oh, wow.
That goes through, the weeks and years surrounding this album.
And is it Steven write that, or is that he was
I don't know who actually wrote it.
He was interviewed, probably.
Yeah. But it's very informative, and it's really good. The how far I've gotten so far. But there's also a 40-minute documentary on the making of the album on here, which is really insightful, and it's mostly, I believe, current interviews with the band, and it includes Colin Edwin, who's no longer in the band, but they're individually interviewed.
Okay,
so they go through the whole thing. Surprisingly, although I really love this album, all of them are like, this was our pinnacle.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh.
Which is not necessarily my take.
Yeah.
But I do enjoy it.
And did it come in a sleeve and everything?
No.
No.
It's the book. It's the book.
Oh,
so it's
okay.
It's a 6-disc set. It's got Fear of the Blank
There's
Planet.
no outer sleeve for the book.
No.
Wow. Okay.
All of the Porcupine Tree stuff has been like this.
Okay, so it's
the Stephen Wilson
Well,
stuff.
at least it's not unique
consistent.
in that regard.
Right.
Consistent, yes.
There's the 2024 remaster of the album. There's the 2024 remaster of Nil Recurring, which was the EP that came after the album, with a live track tacked onto that. There's demos. So what's very interesting is this is the one album that they took on the road before they recorded it.
Okay.
So basically they had these demos, they went through, they went on tour, and they refined this music, and then they recorded it. So I'm very interested. Again, this is a recent purchase for me, so I haven't gotten into every piece of it, but I really want to listen to these demos
and see how
how much they have changed.
Right. Now, the demos were not, when we talked last time and you went through everything you had, those were not part of
the other stuff I already owned.
You don't have
that is something that is
unique
to me,
for you.
Right?
Okay.
And there's also a live in Starbrooken. I can't even read that.
Starbrooken.
Yeah. In September 2006, which I believe predates the album. So between the demos
and the live show,
and then the live show, you can see how they were working towards things, which I think is pretty an interesting document.
Yeah.
I find it very interesting though that the demos, when I compare it to the final product, are seconds different.
Interesting.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So I'm wondering if it's instrumentation that has changed or whether it is actual song structure.
Right.
But we'll find out when we listen.
Yeah.
Disc 5 is all the sessions, BBC sessions, Orlando in-store, all that kind of stuff. Kind of a fun disc.
Okay.
Then there's a 5.1 surround sound Blu-ray.
Okay.
Oh, then the Blu-ray, which is 5.1.
Okay, so we're getting into
it's not Atmos, which I was kind of surprised, but it's a 5.1 of Fear of the Blank Planet.
Would not surprise me if there's an explanation in there why he didn't do an Atmos mix. There could be a reason.
Could be. Then there's Dylan Recurring in 5.1. Then there's this documentary that I just talked about.
Okay.
Promo videos, live films, and the promo videos, then 2 live visual films that they would play in the background.
Okay, yeah, but project.
And then 3 live tracks from Cologne, Germany. So
nice.
It is pretty cool in the end. And it's I don't even know how many pages this book is, but it's
big and long.
107. So it's like probably 120, just shy.
Wow.
So nice.
There you go.
And
all right.
I've really only gotten through the Blu-ray.
Yep.
And I've enjoyed the whole thing. So even just for the Blu-ray, but the Blu-ray, I wouldn't pay that much for a Blu-ray.
Right. Well, the book. You got the book.
And the last one that we have is This Strange Engine from Marillion. They have released as a 4-disc set as well, or a 5-disc.
What label is that on? They're through the EMI years, right?
Yeah, this was their first major Their first album after their EMI years.
Yep.
So there's a documentary on this too, and they are lamenting the change.
Right. Yeah.
You know, and it's just like, whoa, what we were used to, what we suddenly found ourselves in, and you know how we had to do this, that, and the other thing to make ends meet and still be a band. And these were lean years, I guess, or the beginning of some lean years.
Right.
But you know, as I revisited this album for the first time in a long time, I love this album.
Yeah.
There's things, I mean, the band loves and hates certain songs on it, particularly Hope for the Future, but it's good. So again, I have to go through and read all this stuff, but you know, it's a nice package. Again, they kind of expound upon the original packaging.
Yeah.
Change the front cover
a little bit.
But it's pretty cool.
That's very nice.
Again,
so they remixed the album for 2024, and then you got a couple of CDs, which are a live show in Grand Rapids from 1997.
Yeah.
And nice mix of music there. Then the fourth CD is the B-sides and bonus tracks, radio edits, I'm seeing some acoustic session stuff. And then then you get a Blu-ray. So you get the remix in stereo and 5.1. Then you get the jams and an early version of the album in stereo only, and they've got a list of all of that. And that's a lot of different songs. Well, backing track.
It's like 20 songs or something, right?
But I mean that's par for the course. And then that's the Blu-ray audio content. The Blu-ray video content, you get a documentary film, so 85 minutes on this strange engine. And is that new?
Yes.
Okay, so that's a brand new documentary. That's then
substantial.
Right, and then you've got a bootleg concert video live in Utrecht, Tivoli, Utrecht, Netherlands on May 29th, 1997. Again, nice selection of tunes and a couple of promo films. So that's a pretty hefty
package.
Yeah.
And this is right around the time that they were starting that crowdfunding situation, right? So
was this album crowdfunded? Well, the tours were crowdfunded.
The tour was crowdfunded. That's when it started the ball rolling.
Gotcha. Was it for this tour?
I believe it was.
Okay. So
you can correct me later, but I think.
Well, I don't. Loan me. I know we talked about. I thought at one point
went through the crowdfunding
thing. Crowdfunding thing because you were a part of that right at the beginning.
Yes.
You were there right at the beginning.
A fun little piece, and as I was saying, it's in the same format as the first EMI one, so the same kind of, it fits right in with all of them. So,
and as we
hopefully they will continue that.
And as we start to cut out the cellophane sticker here. Original album remix, unreleased. So that Live in Grand Rapids show, 2 CDs that's unreleased, and new artwork, memorabilia, and a new essay. That's great. So we'll use this as a nice segue to the future. We're going to talk about what else is happening in 2025. What's next for Marillion?
I think they're working on a new album.
Okay, right, and
we've got
so you may get a new tune or two by the weekend.
They are less
inclined to do that.
I don't usually hear them, or at least the tours that I've been on.
Right. That's March, the weekend?
That's in March. Okay. The Marillion weekend in Montreal is March.
Well, if they're listening, you would certainly surprise people if you want to mix it up from past years and bring a new tune or two. Just a lighthearted.
Wouldn't mind. Then
reissues though they haven't. What's after this album?
That's all I know. This was it just came out like a month ago, so I don't know what's on the agenda for the others because this was at the beginning of them hopping from label to label.
Radiation.com. What comes after?
I think it's .com is next, and then Radiation.
2 albums which I actually enjoy.
Right.
So I'd like to see box sets of those albums.
I think that would be great.
This is after Marbles.
No, Marbles
is later. Okay, all right. I getting my Marillion timeline.
So
a little messed up there.
But the then Fish is got a new Vigil, right? Multiple box sets. I'm not sure.
He's got Vigil, and Internal Exile just came out a few months ago. I think we may have briefly mentioned them in a previous episode. His box sets are similar with, documentaries, and of course he writes his own liner notes, and there's tens of thousands of words. So it's therapeutic.
But he's retiring.
Right, and it's therapeutic for him too, I think, to go through those eras, because he had a lot of eras that are were a little more difficult than others. But he's finally wrapping up in 2025. No one says, "Oh, I'm not going to play a live show anymore." So I'm not going to tour anymore. So it's more if I do a show here or there occasionally in the future. But he definitely sounds like he's going to wants to step away more from music. That's what it seems to me. And he's got, he pretty much has put everything out now as deluxe sets. That's really Vigil and Internal Exile were the last ones. And he'll put some live stuff out, I'm sure, from these farewell tours. I know there's something that's out already, because this farewell, or at least it was a Vigil, playing some Vigil stuff, and then his last solo proper album. There's been some live stuff on the streaming sites at least, but yeah. He wants to, he's going to do an autobiography or something like that. I mean, they never go away. I mean, right? Bruford. I mean,
you never know.
Check out YouTube. Bill Bruford just dropped a more kind of like a holiday thank you video, and just talking about.
Oh, I didn't see that.
Yeah, and just talking quickly about the band that he's in now, the Pete something trio. Not Pete Thorne, but something else, and it's interesting because they have some live shots and stuff and video, and it sounds cool. He said, it looks like he's having a blast.
But is it straight jazz?
Yeah. And this is, and we're not talking Earthworks either, Jeff. Yeah. This is more like if if Summer Had Ghosts.
Yeah.
This is jazz.
Fair enough.
But to be fair, well, I happen to like jazz, but to be fair, it's a guitar trio, so it sounds, it's a different sound than most people are used to when they think of jazz, and there's no horns. But it's Bruford. I mean, it sounds like Bill Bruford, no matter what,
Yeah.
So it's actually nice to see him. Not a lot. I mean, he didn't make any fanfare about it. Everybody else did, and he just
true. He just kind of
he just wants to go out there and play. I mean, I remember when they did the Wet and tribute, and he was playing, with Brian Ferry and
Brian Ferry wasn't there.
No, but with Phil Mann, playing Let's Stick Together, and I was like, whoa! It's like never seen him play 4/4 like that before.
Yeah, because his website or the videos that he keeps releasing are all historical.
Yeah, so
he's not pushing this. He's just like, I'm going out and playing.
And it's nice because it's all over the map. It's from all eras, all of his eras, which is great. But I mean, it's just great to see him kind of out there. So.
So who else has?
Well, we know in March we talked briefly about this. It's definitive now. The Lamb Lies Down on Broadway box set will be coming out. One thing that's not very clear, so I'm sure it'll be a surround or an Atmos mix of the album and some outtakes. I mean, I remember back in the bootleg days, there was at least 5, 6, or 7 CDs of different sessions, and of course I probably bought all of them, or at least bought some of them.
Yeah, so is that something that you would be interested in?
I'm not sure at this point in time. I want to see if the question is answered, because there will be a live show on there, and now everybody's like, well, they put a live Lamb show before and they redid stuff. Nobody knows if it's or I could be wrong, and if you know for sure, please leave a comment, if they're going to have an original show without any mucking about or overdubbing it, or if it won't be. So.
Got it. The box set that I have of each of the Genesis boxes, those all had 5.1s on it.
Those all had 5.1s on it but I mean, we're going back
20 years.
Almost. It's so weird to think of it.
It seems like I just got those.
I know. And they were good sets too. I mean, if the remixes didn't bother me, but the bonus stuff was good. You got live.
You got video, you got all that.
I mean, all that stuff, all those videos are on YouTube now, all those shows, the Belgian, all the famous shows everybody talked about but never could have. But this will be interesting. So
this is the first that they've done of any album like
exactly.
this, right?
This is the first they're tackling as a kind of deluxe box set that everybody else does. So I don't know if they'll go back then. I mean, there would be as much demand for Selling England by the pound as there would be for the Lamb.
Right.
Probably Nursery Crime and Foxtrot too. But I think you could actually, to me, you could combine. You could actually, if you wanted to do a mega box, you could combine Trespass
and
Nursery Crime, and then have Foxtrot as a standalone with the Live, because Genesis Live was that era. And then, I mean...
Did they sell their catalog?
I think they did.
I'm just wondering,
but I don't know.
Because that's generally,
I honestly don't
sold
know.
Their catalog, so that now we're getting all these box sets.
I honestly don't know. I thought maybe they did.
I can't remember.
I'm pretty sure Phil Collins sold his solo stuff, but I don't know. I don't know.
I'm just wondering if this. I'm just wondering if this is the beginning of that kind of.
Yeah, I just don't know. I think it was more. The Lamb is 50 years old, and I mean it's a smart thing, get it back in the public consciousness, but I don't know what to expect, and I just have a different attitude towards physical product than I used to.
I know you do.
So that's not to say I haven't bought anything, but I mean. Literally, the only deluxe box sets I've bought, I think, in the last 10 plus years is I got the Crimson Islands, because I love that era. I got the Fripp Exposure box. Which
you did? I have to see
Exposure's box, yeah.
I don't think I borrowed that yet.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And then I got the Van de Graaff Generator box, which is also amazing. But there are boxes where... Like there was a Steve Hillage box that was a limited edition, and I was like, and so there's a couple here and there, and I'm like, but... The Lamb one, I'm not like, oh yeah, I'm definitely going to get the Lamb.
Got it.
I have a surround sound setup. I don't really listen to surround that much.
Okay.
Although, speaking of the Exposures box, like a week ago, I pulled out one of the Frippertronics because everything is
just
on
surround. Had it on at Christmas
and then
dinner.
Christmas Eve dinner, put on, the Pizza Express in April of 1979 in London, right? But it's Fripper. That's not one of the shows that are in surround, by the way. But there are shows that are in surround, and it's wild. It's wild to hear it. But also talking about the Lamb, we have you watched the Phil Collins documentary?
I have not.
So Drumeo, which is kind of, I'll just call it a learning channel for drummers. Like they have lessons and famous people. So this is like, I mean, they have 4.5 million subscribers. If you like what we're doing, we'd love to get to that level. So please subscribe, or at least get over 100. Anyways, please subscribe. Thank you. But so they get anybody and everybody on. Yeah. So they did. It's really his son, Nick Collins, interviewing Phil, and they set one of his drum sets up. And he sits down at it and hits a couple of toms, and that's it. So that's the spoiler if you think he's going to play drums again. And he doesn't. It's hard to tell by the editing what is what. But
is it an interesting
It is very interesting, and it's long as heck. It's almost like 2 hours. It's from a couple of years ago they did the interviews, but he's very not going to say nonverbal, but doesn't really do any answers right in the beginning. It's very strange, And then all of a sudden he seems to warm up, and he talks a lot about the stuff, and he actually talks about Chester Thompson, which they kind of had a falling out. And even though Chester's not in the video, there's a lot of other drummers that are. But he comes off as a bit surly in spots, but laughs a lot too. He seems to warm up to the process. It doesn't seem like it's something he wants to do right in the beginning. It seems like something Nick wanted him to do.
Yeah.
But it's really Nick doing the interview. And they go through all the albums and stuff. And he gets his dates mixed up. But once they start doing that, and they'll pull out a picture, and he talks about how his drum posture, because they show pictures where he's just leaning over, and he's like, they spend some time talking about Brand X, and he talks about that.
Yeah.
So it is very interesting. Gets a little less interesting when he's in the height of his solo career.
Yep.
But it's definitely worth watching. It's definitely worth watching. But he doesn't play drums in it. He hits a couple of toms.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, this feels weird, and they spend some time, but it's interesting because it's something really his son's doing.
Yeah, interesting.
And so it's worth checking out. So that's coming out in March. The other live album, Gentle Giants Playing the Fool. There's a deluxe box of that coming out. It just says spring, so I'm assuming that's probably around April-ish. So it's the full show that was edited for that album, although I believe the full show has already been out, not in one package, but they're also going to do a surround. I don't know if it's an Atmos or if we got a different cat this time, or if it's or if it's just a 5.1. But there'll be a book. There'll be a book in the whole 9 yards. Excellent live album, so we've got that.
And we've got a Jon Anderson live album. Jon Anderson and the Band Geeks are coming out with a new album in March.
Nothing from the new album, though.
It's the first tour they did.
Right, so you get your
So they
did
did
Delirium,
the tour,
right?
the Band Geeks tour, and then they made the album and then toured. So this is from their first tour, which they
you get
do
Gates.
play.
You do get Gates of Delirium.
Yes. So I'm interested to hear that one. It has
but it's just audio. It's not a.
Well, they do have a video. So there's a album and DVD coming out. So it's the video as well.
Okay.
But then they have a Blu-ray as well. But the Blu-ray has like zero information about what the mix is or anything. So I don't know if there's a 5.1 surround. Right. I don't know if there's a Atmos. I don't know if there's anything. It just says the Blu-ray is available.
Okay.
But I don't want to have to buy both, so I pre-ordered the CD DVD.
Okay.
But its album cover is much more akin to something you would expect from a Jon Anderson type release.
I've definitely seen online
versus the true album, which was a
lot of online chatter was saying how this is a much better cover, and I agree completely. Yeah. It's a nice cover.
Yeah.
I wish
So we'll see.
I hope it's good, and they do put out a new one with the new material.
Yeah, and the other songs that they played, because they did switch up the set list on the second tour.
I mean, personally, I think like a lot of bands, they would have put one out of the latest tour, and then as bonus material, they just would have had the songs that they didn't play anymore, like Gates and whatever. But clearly above our pay grade, the decisions that were made for this release. But it's going to be interesting to hear, because I watched the videos, and this will be good sound, really good. Yes. This should be really good sound.
Yes.
And again, the cover's nice.
Yeah. So that comes in March, and also I believe in March is Steven Wilson has a new solo album. So his last thing, they did the Porcupine Tree album, then he had the Harmony Codex, and now
and then the Christmas single.
The Christmas single,
which we talked about last time.
And then,
how did that do on the charts?
Oh, I don't know.
I'm joking.
But he released it as physical product, so I got it. Okay. But he's got a new album out that is supposedly, like one long song or
right. You talked, songs. And what's it called?
I can't recall what it is called, but it's coming out in March. We're gonna look it up.
We're gonna look it up. You had
so he would. There's a lot of chatter that it's going to be returned to the prog elements that he was previously known for. But you know what? There's
Did they
a lot
ever
of people.
Go away? Did those prog elements?
Well, a lot of people complain that the To the Bone album and then the follow up to.
I've gone back to a more progressive style.
Yeah. Well, it was too electronic.
The overview.
The overview is the new album. Yes.
His 8th solo album via Fiction Records on March 14th, and it marks his long-awaited return to prog territory.
There we go. So a lot of people were complaining that he's been doing these things that are influenced by some his more pop tendencies, but he's not a pop songwriter. I mean, as much as he might say that he's influenced by his pop tendencies, it's still he's not. It's
like when people say,
"Oh, top 40.
Oh, XTC is pop." It's not. I mean, even if like that's running through their brains from a template perspective, that's not what comes out. But that's good, right? I mean, that's why we love them. That's why we listen to those kind of bands.
But people have complained that, some of the direction. But, if he didn't do that and he did the same thing all the time, he'd be bored stiff. So I appreciate that he does what he feels
no one's going to complain about the overview. It's not going to be prog enough for somebody.
Yeah,
right?
Or it's going to be too prog too derivative or too whatever. But not us.
Be that as it may. So what, as far as...
I haven't heard anything except that.
Okay, so we don't know. I mean,
I don't know who. I think the band is a lot of the people from his previous solo. Okay. But he's switched up a lot of that.
But there's been it's a CD and there's the deluxe release no chatter like that.
No release aside from the date. Right. No box set and no this, no that.
Months away from
I know,
release.
Which I'm surprised that it has
maybe right after the first.
Yeah.
Because you have to figure out what version you're going to get, right?
Of course.
So... Well, most likely it would be the deluxe.
Well, I don't know, because I don't always go for the deluxe. It depends on the...
It's hard. It's funny because, there will be more deluxes. Even though this album isn't even out yet, there will be more deluxe releases in the future beyond the original one. And there's not been any shows or any of like you were talking about.
Well, he's touring too. Right? Okay, he's touring this, but he's touring it over in Europe. So I don't know that he has any dates set.
Right, but that's not. If there's a deluxe box right at the beginning, none of that live, unless he's played any
none of the live stuff.
No,
will be
I mean maybe it'll be demos and stuff like that. But what I'm saying is that inevitably, what that means is when the next deluxe box, it'll have all that's on this one plus some live stuff.
Yes.
So we'll see.
And what else? The Aristocats. We are going to go see them.
Yeah, we have to get tickets.
In the spring.
Is it March?
I got tickets.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
We're all set.
Okay. All right. I think it's in March. Is that March?
I don't know. It might be April.
Know. Okay.
Some stuff is so far in the future that they just announced the show, so we're going to go.
They're coming to our local venue that we talk about a lot, Warehouse/Stage One in Fairfield, Connecticut. We will try to.
And for those who don't know, that's Guthrie Govan, who he's Steve Wilson's guitar player previously. I don't know that he's still playing with him at all, but seeing him play was great when I saw him. I actually saw him with Asia way back in the day.
And is the bass player Brian Beller? Is that who?
I think it is.
Think
so.
And Marco Miniman. I don't listen to. I listen like when they first came out. I don't know what to expect, but we're gonna try to get them on. I mean, we try to get anybody who comes there, but we don't succeed that often, like once. Check out the John Davison interview. I'll put a link below it.
That's right.
It's a good one. But anyways, if the I was going to say Aristocats, but that's a Disney movie.
I think that's what I said.
Yeah. The Aristocrats want to get on a up and coming prog pod /videocast. I got one for you.
Yeah.
That'll be fun. Prog in Fairfield, Connecticut. Who would have known?
Yep. It always finds a way, John.
Yes, so live. I'm sure there'll be other live shows coming up. I don't think
I've just got the Marillion weekend and that on the docket from a Prog
When's
standpoint.
Cruise to the Edge?
I'm not sure, but we'll have to touch base with our friend Tim Taddy who did the review last time.
Yeah, and we're gonna get
maybe
him on.
We'll do a preview instead of a review.
I think we want to do we'll do a preview of the Cruise to the Edge, so he can tell us first of all who's going to be on it. He's been to a lot of them, so can give us some insight again.
Sure. All right, I think that's it.
Yep, Prog will find a way
if you want it to.